First foremost, I want no further conflict with him.
You tell him from me that he can live or he can die.
Vincent, will you shut up?
Al Pacino's heart stopped in 2020. No cameras, no red carpet, no applause. Just an old man, alone with his body, finally saying, enough. Paramedics brought him back, but something in him did not return. Today, at 84, the man who gave us Michael Corleone, Tony Montana, Frank Serpico, lives a life almost no one would have predicted. Once worth tens of millions, he lost around $50 million to a crooked accountant. He's done movies he openly hates just to keep going. And at 83, he became a father again, with a woman younger than some of his own films. To understand how Al Pacino ended up here, the greatest actor of his generation, and maybe the loneliest, you have to go back, long before The Godfather, long before Hollywood, to a boy everyone called Sonny. Alfredo James Pacino was born April 25, 1940, in East Harlem, New York. His parents were Sicilian immigrants chasing the American dream. Instead, the marriage fell apart. His father left for California when Al was 2. His mother raised him in the South Bronx, with the help of his grandparents, Kate and James Girardi, immigrants from Corleone, Sicily. The same town that would later become mythic because of The Godfather. Life, even then, was foreshadowing him. They were poor, not we can't afford a vacation poor, real poor. Rent, food, survival. His father's absence left a hole no one could fill. But his mother gave him one gift that changed everything. Movies. She would take him to the theater and he'd sit there in the dark, watching giants on the screen. Before he knew what acting was, he knew that whatever those people were doing, he wanted it. Outside the theater, he was a different kind of boy. By 9, he was smoking and drinking. By 13, he was trying marijuana. School meant nothing to him. Fights, skipping class, getting kicked out, it was a pattern. He went through multiple schools before landing at the High School of Performing Arts. It should have been perfect. It wasn't. At 17, after a fight with his mother about his future, he dropped out. No diploma, no plan, no safety net. He ran with friends who also had nowhere to go. Some ended up dead from drugs. 3 of his closest, Quiffy, Bruce, and Pie, died of overdoses. He could easily have been next. The difference was acting. He didn't see it as fame. He saw it as survival. He later said acting probably kept him alive. Then came the blows that nearly broke him. In 1962, when Al was 22, his mother died at just 43. She'd struggled with depression. Her death shattered him. A year later, his grandfather James, the man who'd been like a father, also passed away. Within 12 months, the 2 people who held his world together were gone. He called that the lowest point of his life. No family, no real home. Years later, in his memoir, Sonny Boy, named after his mother's nickname for him, he wrote about a hope that sounds more like a prayer. If I am lucky enough, perhaps I'll reunite with my mother there. All I want is the chance to walk up to her and simply say, "Hey, Ma, see what happened to me." Out of that grief, he did the only thing he knew. He threw himself into acting. He took any job that paid: janitor, busboy, messenger, postal clerk. Every dollar went into acting classes. He studied at HB Studio in Greenwich Village, where he met acting teacher Charlie Lawton, who became his mentor and friend. Even then, he often had nowhere to sleep. He crashed on couches, on theater seats, on the street. He wasn't struggling like actors say in interviews. He was literally homeless at times. But he stayed with it, and one day, the world finally noticed. In 1968, a small off-Broadway play called The Indian Wants the Bronx changed his life. Pacino's performance was raw, dangerous, and painfully human. He won the Obie Award for Best Actor. More importantly, a man in the audience saw him, producer Martin Bregman. Bregman decided, that's my guy. He became Pacino's manager, champion, and protector. Without Bregman, there is no Serpico, no Dog Day Afternoon, no Scarface, no Godfather as we know it. A year later, Pacino made his Broadway debut in Does a Tiger Wear a Necktie? The play didn't last long, but critics singled him out. At 29, he won a Tony Award. Suddenly, the industry had to pay attention. He trained at the Actors Studio under Lee Strasberg, the high temple of method acting. Pacino didn't just learn how to pretend. He learned how to dig into his own wounds and put them on camera. That training paid off when Hollywood came calling. With Resistance. In 1972, The Godfather was being cast. Michael Corleone was the key. Paramount Pictures wanted a real star. Robert Redford, Warren Beatty, Ryan O'Neal. Someone tall, handsome, and established. Al Pacino was none of those things. He had one small movie credit and a theater reputation. To the studio, he was nobody. Francis Ford Coppola disagreed. He had seen Pacino on stage and fought for him relentlessly. The studio fought back just as hard. They even tested James Caan for Michael, ready to push Pacino out. They started shooting anyway. The executives watched early footage and hated it. They thought Pacino was too quiet, too flat. They wanted him fired. Coppola knew there was one scene that could save him: the restaurant assassination. Michael walking in as a nervous, quiet son and walking out as something else entirely. They shot it early. The studio saw the footage. Suddenly, everything changed. They realized what Coppola had seen from the start. This wasn't just an actor. Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon, and Justice for All, Scarface, Scent of a Woman. You know the list. He became the face of a certain kind of man, wounded, angry, trapped between right and wrong. But the fight wasn't just on screen. In 2011, the man who'd grown up poor in the Bronx discovered he had lost about $50 million. His longtime accountant, Kenneth Starr, had been running a Ponzi scheme. One day, Pacino had fortune and security. The next, it was gone. Decades of work, dozens of films, wiped out by one man in a suit. Pacino didn't collapse. He hustled. He took roles he never would have touched before. Yes, even Jack and Jill. He did commercials, speaking gigs, smaller projects. He called that period a crazy montage of loss. But he didn't quit. He never has. If his career was chaotic, his personal life was even more so. He never married, not once. Diane Keaton gave him an ultimatum around Godfather Part 3. Marry me or I'm gone. He refused. She walked. He later admitted that marriage, to him, looked like the pain train. He simply didn't believe it would make his life better. He came close with Kathleen Quinlan. They were deeply in love, traveled, dreamed. She was the closest he ever came to saying, I do. Again, he pulled back at the last moment. And again, he lived with the regret. Still, fatherhood found him. His eldest daughter, Julie Marie, was born in 1989. Twins, Anton and Olivia, followed in 2001 with Beverly D'Angelo. For a man whose own father walked out on him, being present for his kids mattered deeply. He refused to repeat the abandonment he'd experienced. Then, in 2023, at 83 years old, he became a father again. His partner, 29-year-old Noor Al-Fala, told him she was pregnant. Pacino reportedly demanded a DNA test. At his age, he simply didn't believe it was possible. The test came back. The child was his. Roman was born, a baby entering the world as his father approached his mid-80s. Pacino and Noor later separated, but he remains involved. Video calls, little harmonica sessions, an old man trying to be present for a child who will one day know him more through films than memories. And then, that moment in 2020, an illness, a collapse. His pulse stopped. Paramedics revived him, brought him back. But what he experienced in those blank seconds changed him. A man who had spent his life exploring faith, guilt, sin, and redemption through characters came out of that moment convinced of one thing: there is no afterlife, no light, no tunnel, nothing. He has said that openly. When his heart stopped, he felt only darkness, and it stayed with him. So now, at 84, Al Pacino lives with a strange combination of realities. One of the greatest film careers in history, 4 children. Tens of millions once lost to betrayal. Roles he regrets, roles that saved him, and roles that defined entire generations. He is still working, still acting, still searching for characters that mean something. But there is a quietness around him now, a sense that he has outlived not only his era, but most of the people who made that era possible. The boy from the Bronx who once slept in theaters is still here. He's just older, slower, less sure of what comes next. He gave the world Michael Corleone, Tony Montana, Frank Slade. But when the lights go down and the applause fades, he goes home like anyone else, alone with his thoughts, his regrets, his children's voices on the phone, and a body that has already tried to leave once. Hollywood gave Al Pacino everything, and it took almost everything back.